Special welcome to our speaker, our lecturer, Dr. Adam Rahman, our founder, Professor Fatima Abdul-Karim, and of course, you are dedicated FAJIM scholars. Before we begin, I'd like to briefly introduce FAJIM Medicare Foundation. FAJIM Medicare Foundation is a non-profit, non-political organization committed to improving healthcare access for underserved communities in Nigeria. We do this through health education, medical screenings for early detection, and preventive healthcare programs. One of our key objectives is to support students and young professionals pursuing careers in healthcare. We achieve this by instituting scholarships, organizing extramural classes, and providing mentorship and career counseling. Today's mentoring session is part of one of our commitments to guiding and empowering you as scholars. So we encourage you to engage fully, ask questions, take notes, and make the most of this opportunity. Before we proceed, please take note of the following. Keep your microphones muted unless you're speaking. If you have a question, drop it in the chat or raise your hand. And then most importantly, for the scholars that are attending, we're going to share a Google Form attendance link for you to fill. So now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Adam Rahman. But before that, to give us a brief background on our esteemed speaker, I'll invite one of our scholars, Abdulrakib Olamide Ismail, a medical student from Lautech, to share a short bio of the lecturer. Please go ahead, Abdulrakib.
Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome everyone to today's mentorship session. So we're going to the profile of our speaker, Dr. Adam Rahman, MBS, FAJIM Scholars Histopathology. Dr. Adam Rahman is a consultant histopathologist, currently practicing at King Salman Medical City, Medina, Saudi Arabia. He earned his MBS degree from the University of Lagos in 2010 and completed his postgraduate training at the University College Hospital, Ibadan, becoming a fellow of the Faculty of Pathology of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria in 2019. His research interest focuses on gastrointestinal tumors, including a dissertation on the prognostic stratification of gastrointestinal stromal tumors. He also co-authored a peer-reviewed article on gastrointestinal stromal tumors in Nigeria. In pursuit of advanced knowledge, Dr. Rahman obtained a master's degree in public health biotechnology from the University of Ibadan in 2019. During his studies, he conducted molecular genetic research on the association of vascular endothelial growth factor A, VEGF-A, gene polymorphism with chronic kidney disease among patients in southwestern Nigeria. His work involved using polymerase chain reaction restriction fragment length polymorphism techniques, showcasing his expertise in molecular pathology and genetics. Before relocating to Saudi Arabia, Dr. Rahman worked as a consultant pathologist at Evercare Hospital, Lagos, the partner hospital of the multinational Evercare Group. There, he provided both clinical, laboratory, and administrative pathology services, contributing to improved healthcare delivery. His commitment to excellence and innovation has been a defining feature of his career. Dr. Rahman is a member of several professional bodies, including the West African Division of the International Academy of Pathology, WADIAP, the College of Nigerian Pathologists, CNP, and the Royal College of Pathologists of the United Kingdom. Outside of his professional work, he enjoys reading, exploring technology, and learning new languages, reflecting his curiosity and passion for continuous personal and professional growth. So I welcome our speaker, our guest speaker, Dr. Adam Rahman. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I go ahead with the lecture?
Yes, please, you have the floor.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Abdurraqib, thank you for the introduction. So I'll just share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes. Okay, so today, as part of the FAJIM Scholars meeting, essentially we'll be having a talk to both improve you, the scholars, and also I guess it's a chance for even me, the speaker, and other persons present to learn one or two things, because time management is a skill that encompasses academics. It's something that you will require through all aspects of your life. And it's quite a big deal in business management and administration of companies and institutions. So just as you are benefiting, it's also a good knowledge base or refresher for me as well. So we'll be discussing time management and effective study habits, which it goes without saying that if you have these two skills and they're well honed, it's a pathway to academic and success. So by definition, time management is really taking control of your time. It's being able to use time effectively across different activities, allocating time to essential, important activities, being able to prioritize your activities, and being able to have effective use of your time. By studying effectively, it means that you are using adequate time to gain adequate knowledge, and that what you have learned is able to be retained and recalled efficiently. Combining these two for a student will be essential in achieving success. And in a world where information and knowledge is key, you would say that being able to give time to gathering information, constantly learning, relearning, unlearning, and getting new skills and information is key to growth. And to be the best in your field, be the best in class, be the best in what you are studying. Most of you are in school studying different, I think you are mostly in fields of medicine and sciences. So being able to study effectively and garner as much knowledge as you can in limited time is effective to being well-qualified professional. So if you look to the bullets to my left, you'll see key elements for time management. This will include prioritizing your activities, allocating time effectively to each activity, and also setting your goals. This you will usually do by having different tasks in hand, having exams in view, having tests in view, having in-courses that you have to do, and being able to prioritize your reading in such a way that you have learned all of the study materials that you are required to go through. To my right will be the bullets that sort of highlight what you would need to do to have effective study habits. That will include having a consistent schedule of reading and actively learning. By active learning, it means that you're not just memorizing rote, what has been presented to you as course material, but because you're in a field where it requires that you apply, in fact, in any field that would be applicable, it requires that you apply the knowledge that you have gained in for the use of humanity, for saving lives and advancing knowledge and science. You have to ensure that you are able to practice what you have learned. So it's not just enough to memorize the text that you have to pass exams, but you have to engage with the material that you have, be able to ask questions, be able to discuss, and even raise new questions and forge new novel thinking in that light. You also have to be able to focus effectively by limiting any distractions. These days, the smartphone is with us in every place and everywhere. So it's each and everyone's best friend. So by focusing effectively, it means that either you're bringing your phone into that space to be part and parcel of the process of your reading in such a way that it will not distract you, or being able to eliminate it completely from your study sessions so that you're able to gain maximally when you're studying. You also have to be able to review regularly what you're reading, either by repetition, constant revision, which is how the brain actually learns. You have to keep repeating things constantly and be able to regurgitate it again and again. And that way you then master the material that you have studied. By combining these two skills of time management and effective study, then you be able to achieve better academic results. It's beneficial to be able to study effectively and manage your time. You will be productive, you'll be efficient. That way you will procrastinate less. You will use your time to the best use and have the best outcome. You will also be able to have better school-life balance because school, the university, the course you're taking essentially is not the only skill that you are required to acquire while studying. You must also be able to take part in extracurricular activities that will impact yourself and the community at large. And that is why, just like FAJIM encourages you to do, you should be able to take part in the outreach programs and other programs of the organization, so that you will be a well-rounded individual and you won't be all book and no other skills, important soft skills that you should be able to apply in the business world or in your careers. Planning effectively, studying effectively also helps to reduce stress and anxiety. I would imagine that if I were to suddenly ask that all of us here will take an exam, and I told you that the exam will be based on the multiplication table, essentially 6 times 6, 9 times 9, 10 times 2. Nobody here would panic. So that is because we are well prepared for the task that I'm about to give. So it also essentially means that if we have taken cognizance of the study material and have put in our best time and effort and studied adequately, we will be able to go into our tests and examinations with reduced stress and anxiety, knowing full well that we have in our best efforts and that will come out with the best results. So time management. But managing time essentially is a skill that requires you to plan. This can be done using a daily planner, such that you will have a to-do list of tasks that you require to achieve, the course contents that you want to cover for the day or for the week. you also have to be able to prioritize this task and break them into smaller units so that you are you're able to account for them adequately. You can do this by either writing down on a piece of paper what those activities or tasks are, or put it into some digital or electronic form, however it pleases you. Some people will say, oh, writing down helps to make things firmer. And as such, it ingrains it into the mind even better. And that process of writing down sort of encourages your subconscious to partake in the process, and writing down, striking out the activities that you have completed sort of gives a dopamine boost to you mentally, to know that you are carrying out the task that you want to do. Like I said, this can be done either by paper or electronic means. So you also need to build set realistic deadlines to after you have broken those tasks into smaller units. And those deadlines will include knowing what to prioritize, to say, oh, if I have a test in 2 days' time, that definitely takes priority over the test that I'm going to have in maybe 1 week or a month. So you have to set realistic deadlines. Also, while studying, avoid multitasking. Some of us are able to do this better than others, but it is said that the brain functions well by focusing on at a time. So if you're studying, eliminate distractions and ensure that you're focused just on the study material that you want to complete, and set a time for yourself to complete it. Many times we are able to set times, but may or may not be realistic about the times we've set. So when planning, there's something they call the forge time. You must be able to create some allowance for the time that you may not account for in terms of whether due to some tiredness on your part or other things that are required for you to take with you along with studying the material itself. For example, you have to account for the time it takes you to get to the class where you're going to study or the library. So what I've shown is what is called the wheel of productivity. So you have to be able to picture your typical day from morning all the way to the night and account for each and every activity that you think you will be doing. That will allow you to be able to create time blocks. Those time blocks will then be allocated to the activities accordingly. You should be able to envision the time you think you will be asleep, envision the time you will be in class, envision the spare time you would have to study, envision the time you want to allocate to whether sports or other hobbies you may have. And that way you can then create a time block that you would dedicate to studying for your academics. So in time management, like I said, prioritizing your time is one of the most essential skills, or prioritizing the tasks that you want to undertake. And what is most important is triaging. Tasks are usually endless. What is said is that once your task would always expand to fill whatever space or time that you have. So even if you think that you have just a few tasks to complete, somehow those few tasks everybody has 24 hours. The person that has 2 tasks to complete has the same amount of time as the person who has 8 tasks. But somehow you find that it is even possible that the person who has more time tasks to complete will be more effective in managing their time than the person who has even less. And so there's the Eisenhower matrix, which was developed by a former president of the United States. If you look at the table, it shows on the top important, and on the right of it is urgent. And so it groups, the table is then divided into 4 parts, which is very important and urgent on the top left. Very important and not urgent on the top left. And to your right, you have important and urgent. To the bottom left, you have not important and not urgent. And then the bottom right of the screen, you have urgent, but less important or not important. And you would agree with me that the most important task to do first will be those ones that are important and urgent. An activity that you need to complete, an assignment you need to turn in, definitely comes on top of the list, for example. So those are the kind of things you should schedule on your to-do list to accomplish first. Now, for those that are important but not urgent, so some people will argue that, in fact, these are the most important things to do in life. Because fine, they may not be urgent at the time, but if you do not keep your eye on the ball, these are the ones that will then give you the most anxiety when you do not complete them or accomplish them in due time. Because, for example, if you're going to have an exam in 3 months, that is important. 3 to 6 months from now may not seem urgent, but if you do not appropriately schedule and plan your time, you will not be able, in 3 or 6 months' time, you will not be ready for that exam. And definitely, that is not the situation we want our scholars to be in. There's also the place of urgent but not important. Those tasks will be those ones that require should I say, the least of your attention. They're not very important, but because things are always competing for our time, and time is finite. And these things are always competing for our time. Could be family, could be friends, could be your laundry that you have to do and things like that. So yes, it may not be as important as your study, but you must also be able to accomplish them. So what you may be able to do with tasks like this will be to accomplish them speedily, such that you delegate, so that you accord very little time to accomplishing them. Another thing to be able to do with tasks like this is to delegate them. You may say delegation will only apply maybe in a company or institution, but if the things that you can give a younger brother to do that do not necessarily require your attention, if they're maybe your laundry can be done by someone else, if you'll be able to afford it, just so that you can make more time for your study. These are the kind of tasks that you will put into this category, such that you can free up time for those things that are important. And of course, there's the category of not urgent and not important. Some people would say this should not even be done at all, but we're human beings, and there are lots of things that are not urgent and not important that would like to do. And so, yes, they can be planned for, but we should know the matrix of priorities and be able to accord adequate time to different activities. So study techniques. Having appropriate study habits or good study habits, it also helps you to read the material in little amount of time, but to get maximum benefits from it. And to start with, it is important for you to know what the curriculum of study is. You should know the subjects or courses that you are required to take. You should know what the course content should be. You should know the things that you are required to know. And that way you can adequately plan your time and not reading extraneous, unnecessary material. So your handouts are important, your study guides are important, and that way you can be able to make proper notes or guided notes for you to achieve maximum success in your academics. Active listening. When you are in class to attend classes, it's not time that you should think, oh, I'm just here to mark attendance or to while away time. Yes, your attendance is important, and some students will say that they do not gain maximally from being in class. But the fact that you have to be in class and it is a requirement for you, you should also know that it's the requirement is there because it is beneficial to you. Many online courses will make a minimum required number of courses or sessions that you should attend before they would even give you a certificate and things like that. Same for your classes. And you should be actively listening in those classes, because not just the content of the class, but also the kind of cues that your lecturer should give, the areas of concentration, the places that you think that the lecturer has focused on in their teachings. All of those cues you will not get if you're outside of the class or if you're not listening actively in the class. So it's not just listening to what is being said, but it's also paying attention to areas of focus and things that are emphasized upon in the class. And that leads me to note-taking. So while you're in the class listening, active listening also requires that not just that you are receiving the communication being given to you, but you're taking down appropriate notes. Note-taking can be linear, such that you're mostly taking down most of what has been said by the lecturer or teacher. But you can also do your note-taking in a very non-linear way, in which you create things like charts, pictures, visuals, mind maps. All that kind of note-taking helps you to create connections in your mind. For example, with mind mapping, what it essentially does is, because of the pictorial relationships and associations that you have introduced into the notes, you're able to recollect certain concepts more easily. And also the brain is able to make interconnections between different concepts more easily. There's also active recall. Now, either while studying or after you have read through the material, you should be able to give yourself some time after you have read or studied to recall what you have read. That process of recall may be something you do in memory, may also be something you do by also creating notes by your own self. And that process of rewriting and summarizing what you have read, some people refer to it as the Cornell method, is essentially reinforces what you have studied and makes you take ownership of it and helps it to get ingrained in your mind. There's also the SQ3R method, and some people say R3 method. That way, when you're reading voluminous text, the plan or the approach should be to skim through the text or get an overall overview, and then raise questions in your mind as to what you are required to learn from the text before you then go ahead to read it. After reading, then you recite back to yourself what you have read, not as cramming, but as trying to recall important concepts and things that are of note before you then review and summarize to yourself again. So while studying, there's in terms of using the study time effectively, there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique. This was created by a man named Francisco Cirillo, I think. What he eventually devised is a study pattern or timing in which you break your study times into 25-minute slots. So you study for about 25 minutes and then you take a break for 5 minutes. It said that the name of the technique is from the Italian word for tomato, which is like the shape of the clock he was using while creating the technique. So essentially, after studying 25 minutes and taking breaks for 5 minutes, you do this for about 4 times. Then after this session of 20, after this 25 minutes blocks about 4 times, it takes you to about 100 minutes of study and about 20 minutes breaks in between. You then take a long break of about 25 minutes before you then continue studying. That essentially is the Pomodoro technique. And the idea of it is that you are able to relax, reduce stress and anxiety, and then allow your mind to rest and before you continue studying. It's also important to use a lot of audio visuals in studying. These days, there's a lot of material online, on YouTube, online courses, websites. One of the ones I found very useful, like I said, YouTube is very essential, but for example, in anatomy, there's a website called KenHub where they have 3D images of different anatomical presentations and sites, and you're able to interact with that in order to reinforce your study. Other visuals are able to create more of those associations in your mind so that you ingrain what you have studied. So there's some non-conventional sources of knowledge apart from what you have studied in class or your course material or course content. And this could include things like newsletters and emails that you may subscribe to. For example, maybe some breast cancer awareness program, they regularly release newsletters relating to breast cancer and things like that. This help you to have a wide view or outside the class of what the study content or material or even the application of what your academics are going to be about. And sometimes emails and newsletters like this, some of them, even like, for example, like the pathologystudent.com, that which I quoted here, actually takes specific pathology topics and discusses like maybe a chapter of a common pathology text called Robbins, discusses it and summarizes it in a very short, summarized way. And that way, getting information from different sources, being able to relate with what happens in real life with real patients within the community. Newsletters like this will focus on things like demographics, community prevalence, incidence, and things like that. And being able to have this information from different sources reinforces the things that you have learned in class. Very importantly, question banks. It's important that you actually know the kind of questions that you'll be asked in the exams. It's not enough to have read all of the text, and when you then get to the exam, you think that the questions are strange. Really, that there are new things under the sun. These are questions that have been asked to people who came to the school before you, and will also be asked to the people who came to the school after you. So it's important to familiarize yourself with our questions will be asked in different courses. Attempt these questions, practice them. The exam hall may not be the place to start coming up with an organogram or some new strategy in your mind as to how to answer a question. You should have had some kind of preparation that says, oh, if I'm asked a question like this, this is how I'll tackle it. And that's what question banks and practice questions allow you to do. So overcoming time loss or procrastination, this is essentially what you're trying to do when you're managing your time and studying effectively. Causes of procrastination will include things like lack of motivation, fear of failure, distractions, which you have to be able to eliminate from your study time. When you make your study plan or to do, you will make allowance for some of these things outside of your study time, such that your time block is specific specifically focused on one single task, which is to study. You should also be able to set achievable goals, which are small units of tasks per time, so that at every point in time, you're not overwhelmed and you actually feel that you are progressing in the study plan that you have. Because if you create a humongous or bogus study plan, you will realize that you feel like you're not finishing and you become anxious and stressed. So try to limit your study packs or plan to small items, finish them. You get the emotional boosts that you require from having completed a task, and then you move on. I've discussed time blocks before, which is how you just separate your time into units where you're able to focus. It's also important to track your time. This can be done manually by saying, oh, okay, I studied from this time to this time today. I took a break from now to now. And that way you're able to know effectively how much time you have used to study. This can also be done with the aid of apps, which I'll mention in a later slide. You need to make studying fun. Especially if you think that you're getting tired or under stress, you have to find ways to make study enjoyable. You could have something playing in the background to help you relax. You could have a study partner who you have a chit chat with for a brief period. You could have an app like Forests, which for each study time, it will plant a tree, and with your study partner, after the end of the day, you could say, oh, I planted 4 trees, which is, oh, my forest is bigger than your own. I was able to complete 6 tasks and things like that. So the Forest app helps you to have some kind of reward feeling and gives you an incentive to keep going. So these are other tools or apps that help with time management. I mentioned that you have to create a to-do list, which and you can do this using Calendly, Notion, Teams 3. You can even do it with as simple as the Note app on your phone or your notebook with a biro and pen. You should also be able to track the time that you're using to study. I mentioned how Forest works. There's also Toggle and Rise, which you can also use to track your time. In accomplishing tasks, you should try to find simple, effective ways of doing either your coursework or your assignments, summarizing text and things like that. And ChatGPT is invaluable for things like this. Essays that you need to write and edit, you can do with Grammarly. It's also important to, when you're submitting essays and you're trying to eliminate things like plagiarism, use a plagiarism software to check that your essay is adequate and not plagiarized before submitting. So your smartphone, somehow find a way to eliminate the smartphone while studying. You can always put your phone in do not disturb mode. You can install apps that block certain apps, such as Opal. They block certain apps from working while you're studying. There's also Tool 7, which essentially makes social media apps the screen turns gray. And so the app is not as appealing as it is when it's all nice, colorful, and bright. So these are different things that different apps and tools that you could use to make your study time effective. So these are just general tips. You have to know yourself. When studying, different things will work for different people. When you try different systems, you have to find which one works best for you and use it most effectively. You have to find which study time or block of time you are most effective. Some people would say, oh, I'm a morning person. It means then you have to wake up early to ensure that you have done some studying before going to class and not equate yourself with the person who studies best at night. Well, in your own case, you're going to the class at night and you find that you are sleeping. You also need to take your physical health important, health, exercise, all of these things. Having your health intact and being in the best shape will also help your study. And you have to be able to relax adequately. Your hobbies that you have, like maybe reading other materials, writing, all of those things are things that you could put into your spare time when you're relaxing in between your study block times. Also take your mental health seriously. There are avenues in school with either the counseling team, the guidance and counseling people. They are there, they are available. I know that we rarely use them, but if you do think that you feel stress, anxiety, depressed, please make use of the facilities available to you. There's also an app called BetterHelp, which is like a online therapy app. And you could use this to engage with a therapist online, have chats, discussions if necessary. Mindfulness training is also good because with mindfulness, it keeps you, it's a system of thinking or behaving in which you pay attention to your mind and your body. You're grateful for the things that God has done and provided for you before you start your day. And then it keeps you in the right frame of mind to establish the tasks that you have to do for the day and adequately plan and prioritize. Also, like I said, we're all different. We have different styles and we all have different challenges. Some people may have some attention deficit that they need to attend to and may require some consultation or therapy for. So if you think that you need some kind of counseling help, please seek for it. Study groups are also essential. Some people may not benefit from study groups very much, but studying in the university, you must realize that you all are from different backgrounds. There are people who have done a first degree in, maybe you're taking a physiology course, and there's someone who has already taken physiology for 4 years before. Of course, you're not on the same footing. So if you're able to relate with this person, be in a group with this person, that essentially shortens the time that you require to study some of the material that you have. Study groups are also a place where you get some interesting cues and knowledge. For example, I was at a study group sometime when I was in university, and someone was saying, "Oh, do you realize that there's always a question, a compulsory question from this aspect of this course?" And that way, it makes your mind say, "Oh, okay, that's great information. I need to pay attention to being sure that I'm able to answer that first compulsory question in this area." So it's a place for you to gain information. You may not be the most active participant in the group. If you like to teach, teaching is also a way to reinforce knowledge and to reinforce what you have studied and learned. But if not, the study groups are also a place to get passive information and knowledge as to the things that are required for you to learn. Like I said, you have to find a way to make studying fun. Incentivize it, reward yourself for completing the task. If you've had a good study day, or okay, if I complete so task or hours of reading, I will maybe buy an extra piece of meat or something. Reward yourself with some things and make your study plan fun and achievable. So in conclusion, time management and effective study habits are essential for academic success. Developing good habits takes practice, takes time, it takes knowing yourself, but it pays off. You're going to get improved academic results and you're going to be under less stress and anxiety. So stay small, have small tasks, create small tasks, stay consistent, and adjust your task as needed. If urgent tasks come up, prioritize them. and also plan all of your important activities adequately. These are some of the resources I've used to create this short talk. I hope it was beneficial. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Adam Rahman. It has been a wonderful session. Now it's time for question and answers. Do we have people with questions or contribution? You can send it in the chat, or you can just unmute your mic and ask your question.
I guess it was self-explanatory, well understood. Everybody understands. Maybe one of the scholars can just give us some kind of takeaway.
I have a question, sir. I'm sorry.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for your lecture. It was very explanatory. Well, my question is, there are some of us that have some bits and pieces of how can I put it, unpredictability in our day. What I mean is there are some unforeseen I would say task in quotes now that come up spontaneously during our day. Maybe some of us hold offices and probably we have just suddenly someone calls you that you have to meet with them this so time. And you know, things like this, of course, take take a huge chunk of our day in the long run. Like, how do we manage situations like this and effectively managing our time? Probably, especially for those that are into leadership and other things like that. So,
Okay, great. I think I can take that, right? So,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the question, Timley. So I think that could take us back to what I discussed on the Eisenhower matrix. It really is about triaging. You need to know what tasks are important. Just like Eisenhower had the quotes, he said, what's important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. So you have to be able to prioritize your tasks. You have to know what's, like you said, people have different activities. The university is a place that wants to build you in full, not just academics, but your whole person. So you could have other engagements with the student union. You could have extracurricular clubs and activities that you need to take part in. Yes, but if you look at the matrix, you will see urgent and not important. One of the key things to do with tasks that are urgent but not important is to delegate them. You may find that you are not the only one in that role or able to accomplish that task. Or, for example, if you're the president of the association, there's a secretary, there's a deputy, and things like that. So many times we do not learn to delegate. Once tasks come to us, we take it all upon ourselves. So what we need to do, one thing to do, either you speedily execute those kind of tasks that do not require too much of your attention or are not very important, or you delegate them to someone else in the team to say, oh, I'm sorry, this time around, I'm not able to be there, but so-and-so person, please do it on our behalf, and things like that. If you do it not all the time, if you do it some of the time, and maybe when other people have such a challenge too, or have such a task, and you also volunteer to take it up, when it comes to your turn, I'm sure they will willingly oblige that, oh, okay, you've done this for me before, no problem. You can go and do something that is more important. And of course, if it is important and urgent, it means that you need to do it first, just like it says on the matrix. So it's about prioritizing. It's called triaging. You need to put the task in the appropriate box and know whether you should do it first, plan it or schedule it, postpone it or delegate it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. You answered the question.
Thank you.
Do we have any other person with a question?
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Yes, regarding the question similarly asked about having other responsibilities, I agree with the guest lecturer about, prioritizing and, identifying what's important, what's not. The other way is to look at it in a, put some kind of monetary value to whatever task, and say, what is in it for me? Okay. Am I, yes, you are president, you are this, you are that, or another task like that. So, and you have the other task regarding academics. So you say, what is in it for me? What am I going to lose if I don't do this now? If I do not go for this meeting, or if I do not do this regarding this and that, am I going to lose so much? Or am I going to gain? Or what am I going? What are you going to lose if you don't do it at that particular time? So if you put monetary value for every task, you should always ask yourself, what is in it for me? What am I getting? Or what am I losing if I don't? Then you'll be able to now appropriately prioritize. Oh, I'm really going to have an exam and calling you for a meeting. As of obviously, unless you're already prepared, then your exam will be number one, or your submission of your assignment will be number one, and the other one, you can find. If you are president, you always have vice president or secretary to go and represent you. So that's another way to look at it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, that's thank you very much. But that was a wonderful contribution. So what some of the time management people would say is that maybe for certain tasks, you should be able to, just like you said, evaluate how much money it is worth, or how much time you're going to use doing it. So if, for example, that task is going to require you to take, it is going to require 1 hour from you, you should somewhere in your mind say, what is the value of my 1 hour in monetary terms? So if, for example, the value of your 1 hour in monetary terms is, say, 1,000 naira, if you're able to find someone who is willing to free up that 1 hour of time for you and take much less than 1,000 naira or less than 1,000 naira, then you know that that is a task that you should probably pay someone to do or delegate. So yeah, that looking at it in that kind of financial way, I know that we're students, that can also be a way to help to prioritize.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Ma, for your contribution. Do we have any other person with any contribution or additional question? Okay, I think it has been a wonderful session. I personally learned a lot and few highlights we can take home. because I believe we are all students in medical line, one way or the other. So just first of all, know yourself. Know what you are capable of doing. Know yourself very well. Don't compare yourself with someone that can just look at the book and then everything is in their head. If you know you are not like that, maybe start a little bit earlier. Set a plan like Dr. Adam has said. Set a plan, set a goal for yourself. If your goal is to be a first-class student, do not study like someone that has other things in mind, like they don't even care about the academics. Make sure you have things in place, set goals, set priorities like they've rightly said, and of course, everything will fall in place. So in the absence of questions, we'll be having our founder now, Dr. Abdul Karim, to give a vote of thanks. Ma, you can take over.
All right, so thank you very much, everyone, for the scholars who have been able to join. I'm sure you've gained one or two things, and even me, I've gained one or two things from the lecture. Time management, you can never get a grip of it. You have to keep trying and trying to be on top of it, because as human beings we have so many tasks that are demanding for our time, and appropriate prioritizing, knowing what is important, what is urgent, and trying to avoid distractors. There are a lot of distractions around us now with social media, with so many activities, social activities here and there, but as healthcare professionals that you want to be, you have a lot on your hand, and so you cannot compare yourself to others. Rather, you put yourself among the serious-minded people with so many tasks, and so you should know how to prioritize and give the most of your time to those tasks that will give you the most results. So I pray that God will continue to be with you and make you excel in your studies, and even when you finish, to excel in your career. So I want to thank Dr. Adam for taking this lecture, even at short notice. Thank you very much. May God reward you abundantly. And to our management team, thank you for an excellent organization of this session. So I want to also use this opportunity to remind the scholars of what is expected of them. The January group have not come up with anything. The February group, we are still waiting for you. So you should come up with your plan of what to use to educate the populace regarding health. So wish you all the best and a good week ahead. Bye. Over.
Thank you very much, ma'am. This has been an enlightening session. A huge thank you again to Dr. Rahman for sharing his time, insights, and wisdom. To our scholars, we appreciate your participation. Quick reminder, if you haven't filled out the attendance form, please do. We look forward to seeing you at the next FAJIM Scholars Mentoring Session. On behalf of the management team. Thank you for your time and commitment. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Thank you.